Hi everyone, thanks for dropping by. My name's Andrew Salabank and I'm a technical consultant based within the UK, and this is going to be the first in a series of video postings just looking at some of the new features of ConfigMgr v.next. So, maybe if some of you guys haven't had a chance to get hold of the beta yet and throw it in the lab and have a look at some of the features, you'll hopefully find this interesting. First up, we are going to look at the application deployment side of ConfigMgr, and as I say, I hope to add lots more videos over the coming weeks, so do keep on checking back with the site. Okay, so first up, let's head into the console. So I'm just going to fire that up now. This is my central admin site. So I'm just going to head into the software library. Excuse me. And we can see up here this application management node, which is the one that we're interested in. And then beneath here, applications. So in ConfigMgr v.next, software distribution has been completely rewritten. So we've got lots of new concepts in there, new ways of doing things, and some great new features. So you can see here I've got 3 existing applications. What I'm going to do today is set up, I'm going to add another application in here. Excuse me, I've got a terrible cold today, so just bear with me if I'm coughing and spluttering and stuff. So I'm going to add a new app in here, and we're going to do a traditional exe deployment, and then we're going to do an MSI based deployment, just so that I can show you the differences between how those work. Okay, so right click, create application, and this gives me my create application wizard. So first up, I'm going to show you an example of creating an application that's based off an executable file, one of the older installation methods. So it's not as streamlined, I guess, as the stuff that we can do with the MSI. So I'm going to show you that first, kind of show you the long way around of doing things, and then we'll show you how an MSI works and effectively how much easier it is. Okay, so let's do that. So first up, so when we're looking at working with executables, this option here basically isn't available to us. So what this is saying is, okay, if you have an MSI or an app-v or a cab for Windows Mobile, then you can feed that information to me, and effectively I'm going to have a look at the information that's in that MSI or in that app-v file, and I'm going to build the package based around the information that I gather from those files. But we can't do that with an exe, so we select the bottom option here, manually define the information, hit next, and then we're going to put some details in here. So I'm going to do Silverlight in this example, so just fill in some of the details similar to what you would do for a package, hit next. I'm just going to jump through some of these screens fairly quickly just to give you an overview, but this screen here is specific to the software catalog. So one of the great features of v.next is that we now have a web portal that our users can log on to and can browse applications. It's a self-service portal, so they can go on there, they can have a look at applications which we make available to them, and basically just help themselves, which is fantastic. I think this is a feature that ConfigMgr has been crying out for years, and really pleased that that's in there now. What we can also do, we can put some controls around that so that we can say, right, well, if we've got a particular application, we don't want users to be able to go and install that at their own will. We can put some controls on there to say, okay, this needs approval. I'm going to go into the software catalog in further detail in another posting, so just moving on from that and getting back to the app deployment stuff, I'm going to flick past that. Okay, so admin's responsible for the application. So what we can do here is we can actually specify, who owns this application. So, if it's a desktop publishing application, then the owners are the desktop publishing guys. Excuse me, and so on. So this is a nice little option to have. So just to show you how this works, I've got some groups defined here around different application roles, around different application owners, I should say. So you could define them around application types, or you could define them around types of teams, disciplines, that sort of thing. So let's just pick one of these. And you can put multiple owners in there as well. Hit next. Excuse me. Deployment types for the app. Okay, so this is pretty much, I would think of this as being the program. So in SMS, ConfigMgr 07 concepts, you have a package and a program. In v.next, you have an application and a deployment. So the application can have multiple deployment types. So let's just add one in there now. And because this is an exe, it's basically going to be this option here, scripted install. So we'll choose that option, hit next. So we've got a name there, that's fine, I'm happy with that. Next, content location. So where is the content? So I'm going to select that folder. So this has to go in as a UNC path. We've got some options here. Excuse me. We've got some options here which relate to branch cache. Specify the command used to install the content. So hit browse, Silverlight, and we're just going to put a Q switch on there. We can also specify an uninstall package, an uninstall command line if we have that. So if we know that we can uninstall this application by using a particular switch, then that can go on there now. Okay, detection methods. So in v.next, we have a concept of application detection. So, what's the point of installing an application again if it's already on the machine? If we're working with MSIs, this is fairly easy. We can specify product codes. If you're working with executables, that sort of thing, then it becomes a bit more complex, I guess. So we have to specify a scripted method of detecting if the application is present. So you might have some sort of VB script which detects if a particular key is present in the registry, or detects if an executable is present within a certain path, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to skip past that for now, but you get the idea of how that works. User experience settings. So am I installing the application? Is it a user targeted deployment, or is it a system targeted deployment? So in this case, I'm going to be deploying to the user, so I can leave that as it is. Program visibility. Do I want my user to be able to see the install or not? Well, I've already specified the Q switch, so they're not going to see that anyway. But we've just got some added control here if we need that. Maximum allowed runtimes, and excuse me, and now an estimated install time, which is new. I don't think that was there before, so we could say to the user, yeah, we think this is going to take 5 minutes to install. Installation prerequisites. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So if we add an install prerequisite, what we can now do is specify controls around an application. Let's just take a look at the machine category to start off with. And these are the options that we have available. So I think I'm right in saying there's going to be some more options coming in Beta 2, certainly in the full release. This is some of the stuff that we can do in Beta 1. So let's say, for example, an organisation with 10 sites across the UK, and one particular site has bought licenses for an application, and so that application shouldn't be used outside of that site. So what we can now do is we can say, okay, well, this application is only going to install if we detect that it's run on the London AD site. If someone's trying to install this application and it's outside of the London AD site, then it's not going to happen. So it's a nice bit of control that we have around the application now. That's just one example. You can also base this on machine specs, that sort of thing. Another good use for this is, so if we're deploying to users, we can say, is this machine the user's primary machine? And if it isn't the user's primary machine, then okay, we don't want to install the full-blown application on that machine. Let's just put a remote services shortcut on the desktop, or let's just push it down using app v, and then it's much easier to get rid of. All good stuff. Dependencies. So does the application contain any dependencies? So we can come in here, add new dependencies, so we could say, yeah, okay, well this application needs .NET in order to be able to function. Okay, that. Okay, that. Hit next. And that's it, we're done. You then have the option to install, to add additional deployment types for the app. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to have Silverlight as an executable and also as an app v install. Silverlight's probably a bad example, but if you had an application that was, I don't know, 500 megabytes in size, you could say here, well, look, if the user isn't on their primary machine, I'm going to add another deployment type, and that deployment type is going to be for an app v install. And if the user isn't working on their primary machine, then I want to install the app v content as opposed to the local content, because that's going to be much more desirable. We can just remove that when the user logs off again. Okay, next again, and I'm done. Close that.